Hey there, gorgeous. Welcome to today's video, which is on boundaries. And this is one of my very favorite topics to talk to women about because most women would not put boundaries and self-love in the same sentence. So honestly, the video about boundaries could be about a day long because there's so much to say about them. But for the purposes of our time together, I've really narrowed the focus. I'm going to tell you what a boundary is, and then I'm going to tell you the two ways that I see women struggle with boundaries. So, all right, in a nutshell, a boundary is something that keeps the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. So if you think about a fence around your yard, like a physical boundary, it keeps the things that you want in your yard, like your pets, your children, some of the time, right? Some of the time we might want our children out of our yard, but it also keeps the things that we don't want in our yard out, like our neighbor's pets or our neighbor's children. So the same is true with setting an emotional boundary. It keeps the bad stuff out, but it allows the good stuff to stay contained. Okay. Now, boundaries are very flexible and fluid and very situational. A person who sets healthy, appropriate boundaries can relax and loosen up a boundary depending on the situation, or they can tighten it up and really pull it in depending on the situation. That's how boundaries are meant to be. Now, most of us don't use boundaries like this, and the type of camps that I tend to see women fall into, I call over-boundaried and under-boundaried. Now, over-boundaried women think that they're very good at setting boundaries. They will tell somebody off in a heartbeat. They're going to tell it like it is. But what they're really doing is that they are building walls instead of boundaries. And these walls are meant to keep people out, to keep people away. Yeah, it keeps the bad stuff out, but it also prevents any of the good stuff like joy, connection, intimacy from getting in. These type of women tend to be very controlling, perfectionistic, very rigid. They have a really hard time relaxing. They have a hard time with spontaneity and going with the flow. They like things very orderly and organized, and they're super self-critical, okay? Now, the other camp that women tend to fall into is what I just call the under-boundaried, and they are women who have no boundaries, or they don't have nearly enough boundaries. And these are the type of women who are incredibly self-sacrificial. They will give you the shirt off their back. They will drop what they're doing to come help you. They are always putting themselves last. Their needs, are on the back burner. And the end result of this for those women is that they often end up feeling very victimized, like a doormat, very walked over, very used, and they feel drained and depleted and exhausted because they are constantly giving to other people and they don't ever fill themselves up, okay? So here is your inspired action around boundaries for today. Number one is to decide which side of the spectrum that you fall on. Now, it's possible that you can fall on both sides, but most of us have kind of a default. We have a predominant style. So I want you to decide what that is for yourself. If you're an over-boundaried person, your inspired action for today is to relax a little bit, to let your boundaries be more fluid and flexible. That may look like saying yes to something that you'd normally say no to, or it may look like relaxing your schedule a little bit so that every minute of your day is not booked and planned and you have a little time to do something that you feel like doing instead of what you have to be doing or what you pressure yourself to do. Now, what this does for you by relaxing the boundary a bit is it allows space for connection. It allows space for creativity and intimacy. All right, so if you're an under-boundaried person, your action item for the day is the opposite. It is to say no to something. And it can be literally anything. It could be that your spouse comes home and says, let's order pizza for dinner, and you don't feel like pizza, but normally you'd go along. So maybe you choose to say, no, I'd really like Chinese today. Or maybe a friend asks you for coffee and your day is already crammed full, but you don't want to hurt her feelings and you don't want to say no. So you would normally say yes, but maybe today you say, thank you so much for thinking of me, but that's going to make my day full and I'm going to have to take a rain check, okay? what can you say no to today, or conversely, what you can say yes to. For the under-boundaried person, when you start saying no to things, what that does is that creates space and openness in your life to say yes to the things that light you up, that will fill your cup, that will re-energize you so that you can be there for people in a healthy way. So I'm super excited to hear what comes up for you guys when you do this, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.